The man asks if he can give it a wash and the driver agrees. He thanks him and starts washing. The man then finishes. The driver asks the amount and the boy replies that it is 5 BRL. He then said that he is without change in hands over a note of 100 BRL. The boy asks if he only has that note, because there is no change. The driver then told him to change the money and that he trusts. The boy said he is back. The guy runs out and gets all the money. The man greets the driver and asks if he can wipe the windshield. The driver then agrees and he starts the service. When finished, the driver asks the amount. He then replies that it is 5 BRL. The driver said, "I have no change." The man said it's okay for him to swap down there. The driver asks if he can trust and he says yes. The guy runs out and gets all the money. While driving, the driver said that as everyone can see in the video, this was a social experiment and he was really testing if there are honest people in the world and that he really believes he will find a good person in the world. The two greet each other and the boy offers to wipe the windshield. The driver agrees and he starts the services. He says to turn on the cleaner. When he finished again, the driver said he hasn't been changing the boy. Then, unlike the others, he said that he really has no change, and that the day was weak. The driver tells him to change and that he trusts him. The man said he does not know where to exchange because there is nothing there, and that he had the popcorn boy but he is not. The man told him to pay later, that he is always there. The driver asks if he trusts him. The man said that he trusts yes and that the good one who turns customer, because he really will not find change. The driver asks if he does not find it and he says that he is always there and another hour pays and that he will not be able to exchange the money. The driver says he is not from the city and the man says he is pro account of the house and that the other time he passes there. The driver then said he will take a walk and on the way back there pay. The man asks if he is sure if he will even leave 100 BRL there anyway. The man said he trusts. They greet each other and the man said that unfortunately he could not change the money, walked everywhere and really no one was exchanging. Everyone wanted him to buy something and depending on the place, it was all very expensive. Driver confirms, saying that almost no one uses money nowadays and the man agrees and says that some also think that the note is fake. The driver asks what to do. He then said that the next time he passes, he makes a way to get it right. It is not loss. he said no, and that he certainly earns more than that. The man hands over the money and said that the next time he passes there, he gives a strengthening. The driver said he was really honest. The man then laughs and says that honesty is a must, and that the money is his, driver. Then he asks if the two can talk. The man is surprised, however, says that they can talk. Yes. The driver asks if it will not disturb. He said no, they can talk there in the square, and to go, they will. They greet each other and the driver asks his name. He introduces himself as Fred and asks the name of the driver, who introduces himself as Leandro. He did not say that he will only extend there, so they can talk and ask, what will be the topic of conversation. Leandro then says he wants to know his story. He said it was better for the two to sit down, then, because the story is long and that it is the carelessness of life that leads where he is today, wrong choices. Leandro told him to tell him. Then he starts by saying that he was an app driver before the pandemic and that he started college and his dream was to be a teacher. Leandro then agrees and said that he really has the face of a teacher. And he reaffirms that this was his dream, so he worked as a driver, paid for college and had a young daughter who, although not a child, he considers as a child about 12 or 13 years old at the time, and that his life was this rush. App and college driver, and that when the pandemic came is really over with him. The pandemic wiped out all the customers, and it wiped out several as well, not just him, and that because his car was financed, just like most of the car of Brazilians, he had to deliver, and that ended his job. And, as everyone knows, employment in the pandemic was almost impossible. Leandro asks if he was married. He said that it was like this and that, with everything happening, his wife still left him, and consequently his daughter too, who for him will always be a child. But at the time he was 12 or 13 years old, and in short, he lost his job, lost his wife, and lost his daughter because he couldn't see. And since the woman was mad at him, because he could not contribute financially, and still lost everything. He lost the case because he was expelled, he lost his car and his job. Then Leandro said that he just hasn't lost faith, and Fred agrees that faith is impossible to lose. And said that because this he was turning around, then began to sell bullet at the traffic light, managed to rent a small kitchenette for him and realized that there the air is very dry, and then came the idea of cleaning the windshields, because at that dry time of the year, the windows of the car are very dirty even, that this was an opportunity, and in the end he was getting along. I was able to support myself and pay the rent of the net kit, so I would start to vent. But first, he apologizes for it and said it's really rare. Someone is interested in his story. Leandro told him to relax, dear. Leandro said that he knows how it is and really imagines situation, and that not long ago it had been her 15th birthday and he did not even have money to buy a gift for her, and that even at the party he did not have the courage to go. Despite the daughter having invited against the will of the mother, he was ashamed to go with his clothes, because he had. Leandro says that this was a possible parental alienation, where the mother prevents the country from being present. Fred then said that the situation there was more because of the money itself. Fred begins to cry. Fred said that he is sure that his daughter knows how much he loves and that he will be able to turn it around, that unfortunately, on his 15th birthday he was present. However, Fred agrees and says that this was his dream, because he no longer has a way to graduate. Leandro says that just the fact that it is an honest job says a lot and that he will not lie. He was testing other people, that with the two, his money was gone. Different question, what kind of test was that? Leandro said that it was a social test and that he believes that there are still good people in the world, but there is always someone trying to prove otherwise. But he never gives up on finding good people, and that the world still judges a lot by the cover that will not even turn into a tank top and tattoo, and has already played him as being a wrong person, and that he surprised. Fred, you ask, if all that money he left was just a test. Leandro said, yes, it was a test. Fred is glad he passed, that he would never keep the money that wasn't his, and that, being on the streets all day, they see a lot wrong. Leandro Beautiful asks, how many years has it been that he has not seen his daughter? Fred said it's been about 3 years. He asks if he calls daughter. Fred said he tries, but her mother really doesn't want them to talk. Leandro asks if it was normal or had any problems. He said no, and that she was probably just upset by the whole financial situation they went through, losing the car and the house, and that she revolted against him, and that time went by and that they live far away now, and that they don't have the contact anymore. Leandro asks what he needs to rebuild his life. He said that from what he sees on the streets and talks to people, he would go back to being an app driver, and if he had a car he would be able to return where he left off, like seeing his daughter, and not only that, but also renting an apartment, because he does not call her because he is ashamed of where he lives, the kitnet full of Bixo, all ugly and dirty, not necessarily his, but around, then that's where he can afford it. So he would also rent a better apartment, because just so Leandro would have a notion if he called his daughter in the kitchenette, she couldn't even sit down, because he sleeps on a mattress on the floor. Leandro said he thinks he can help. Fred asks, how is he going to do it? He then said that, as he said, it was all a social experiment and he is actually a very honest man. And as he said, God never gives an approval that cannot be endured, and that before approval comes the trial, and that his is over, it is the time of blessing. Fred says he doesn't understand. They get up and go to the car. Leandro tells him to get in and see if it was similar to what he had. Fred asks if he's sure because it's all sweaty and dirty and can dirty the car seat. Leandro tells him to get in. Fred said it was much better than what he had. Leandro hands over the keys and tells him to call. He said that it has been a while since he took the car, about 3 years, however, he still knows how to turn on. Leandro then asks if he knows who that car is. Fred then said that that car was Leandro's. Leandro says it was his car. Fred laughs, and he then asks if he remembers when he spoke of the blessing. Fred said yes. Then Leandro said that that car was his. Fred asks if he is giving the car and starts crying. Leandro says that the one who is giving is the one who takes care of him, and that seeing a man of that size crying was difficult. Fred thanks him and says that he does not know what to say, and that he will be able to return to work, and that the car was new. Leandro says that it would give him to start all over again. Fred asks if he can go for a walk, and says he'll go there. He goes and says he still knows how to drive. Huh, guys? How it's still worth doing good, an honest guy who just wants to work, a battler with a beautiful story that many still go through. Leandro greets the future teacher and says, asking how are you? He said it felt great and it had been 3 years since he had driven. They thanked him and said his daughter will be proud of him.